Welcome to this explainer, where we are going to tackle the absolute toughest conversation in real estate, telling a seller their price is wrong while their listing is still actively on the market. Let's dive right in. Picture a brand new listing. During week 1, you get 14 showings.
The momentum feels phenomenal, right? The seller's excited, you're excited. But then week 2 hits, and suddenly, those showings drop to 6.
By week 3, the activity just grinds down to 2 showings. The silence is deafening.
And then the ultimate reality check hits. 0 offers. The market is answering the exact question the seller absolutely does not want to hear. But here's the thing. Having the price reduction conversation at day 12 literally saves 4% compared to having that exact same conversation at day 45.
Section 1. The cost of delay. Let's explore exactly why the timing of your price reduction matters far more than the dollar amount. Every single week, a listing sits overpriced, the eventual sale price drops further. And here is the kicker. It drops more than the actual price correction you needed in the first place. Across Wilmington and North Carolina's New Hanover County, the data clearly shows the average days on market for a correctly priced listing is exactly 18 days. To put that into perspective, by day 18, you've gathered enough market data and foot traffic to justify a strategic change to your sellers, but the listing hasn't quite entered that dreaded stale category in buyer searches yet. It is literally the perfect sweet spot for an intervention. As this quote perfectly highlights, an agent who acts early to present this data actively saves their seller money. It's a proactive measure, not a reactive panic. You are stepping in right before the momentum completely evaporates. Think of it like catching a falling knife before it hits the floor and shatters your seller's hard-earned equity.
This chart brilliantly illustrates the invisible cost of waiting. It's like a giant leak in your seller's bank account. Reducing the price at day 14 costs about 3% of the final sales price. But delaying until day 45, that costs a staggering 7%. Why the huge jump? It is all due to accumulated stigma. The longer a house sits, buyers inherently start to wonder, what is wrong with this place? Therefore, the longer you wait, the steeper the discount required to overcome that psychological barrier and generate fresh interest. To put a finer point on it, your showing decline is a leading indicator. Listings that experience a 50% or more showing decline in week 2 will eventually close at 4.2% below their original asking price. The data is warning you in real time. That drop in foot traffic is essentially the market screaming at you that a pricing adjustment is needed right now, before the listing becomes invisible to active buyers.
Let's move on to Section 2, the competitive entry shift. This is where we look at how buyer options change. Market momentum rarely dies because a house suddenly degrades in physical quality. No, it almost always dies because a competitive entry changes the mathematical equation for buyers overnight. Let's look at this comparison. Imagine our subject property in Porter's Neck sitting at $525,000. Suddenly, it is competing against a brand new Leland listing priced at $489,000. That is a massive $36,000 gap. And to make matters worse, the Leland property offers tangible upgrades, like a newer kitchen and an extra half bath. The hard truth you absolutely must explain to your seller is that the buyer's options changed overnight. This is the empathetic angle you need for a successful conversation. It's not that their beloved home is suddenly worth less. It's that a competitor arrived and fundamentally shifted the available inventory. This completely depersonalizes the issue. It's not an attack on their taste or their home's intrinsic value. It's strictly an objective observation about the current competitive landscape.
Section 3. Navigating the 30-day stigma. What happens when a listing goes stale?
Well, if you miss that optimal early intervention window, the data gets incredibly harsh. At 30 days on the market, buyers start assuming something is fundamentally wrong with the property, even when absolutely nothing is wrong except that initial price point. This accumulated stigma results in a sharp 23% drop in showing requests compared to fresh listings. The buyer pool is actively filtering you out of their consideration set. Once that stigma is firmly attached, a minor incremental price tweak simply won't fix the problem. A $1,000 drop does not trigger new search alerts, and it definitely won't excite a buyer who already passed on the house. If your necessary price reduction exceeds 5%, you have to objectively sit down with the seller and compare the strategy of reducing the price in place versus strategically withdrawing and relisting entirely to reset those days on market. And the numbers strongly support the reset strategy in these cases. The data shows us that properties withdrawn and relisted after 30 days actually sell 2.8% higher than properties that just stubbornly reduce their price in place. Sometimes, the psychological stigma is so heavy that wiping the slate clean is the absolute best way to protect the seller's remaining equity.
Section 4. Presenting data, not opinion. It is time to depersonalize pricing.
To fiercely protect both the seller's equity and your working relationship with them, you must anchor your conversation entirely in market evidence using this precise structural framework. Step 1. Detail the declining showing pattern objectively. Step 2. Show the new competitive entry that shifted the market dynamics. Step 3. Make your recommendation based solely on that verifiable evidence. By doing this, you're simply the neutral interpreter of the data, rather than the bad guy bearing negative opinions.
Finally, Section 5. Let's look at the incredible advantage of utilizing structured workflows to handle this. The absolute best framework in the world is completely useless if it's deployed weeks too late. Notice the flag right here at day 7. When a listing sits without an update or a showing request for a full week, the dashboard priority scoring immediately flags it. In a fast-moving market, silence means the price is wrong. That 7-day flag signals a critical loss of momentum, ensuring your intervention conversation happens precisely at day 12. Right in that optimal correction window we talked about.
This is where automated client replies step in to streamline the entire process. The system pre-fills your seller communication using the deal notes directly from the opportunity timeline. It seamlessly takes that showing drop and that $489,000 competitor and formats it into an objective, highly professional email. Your reduction request is deeply anchored in documented facts, not frantically reconstructed from memory.
The market is constantly speaking through the data, so ask yourself, are you actively stepping in to protect your client at day 12, or are you passively letting silence cost them dearly at day 45? With CMA Flow, the empirical evidence is all right there. You just have to present it with confidence. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and we will see you next time.